They always hope that they'll grow up to be friends. And I constantly hope that for my two boys, that they will also be friends. And our mother must have hoped that for Laura and I as well. But Laura and I weren't always that close. She definitely caused me my fair share of grief. For instance, there was a time that I was supposed to be babysitting her and her friend who was visiting at our house. I think Laura was 9 or 10, and we had just moved to Haliburton, and they were playing outside in our backyard while I was sitting inside reading some kind of teen magazine. And suddenly Laura was inside telling me that there was a fire in the backyard. And sure enough, I went out and our backyard was, in fact, on fire. Just a small patch it seemed, at least at first. I asked Laura if she just found the fire there, and she was somewhat evasive. We started trying to put it out with a bucket brigade, but at some point I realized that this was bigger than we could handle, and I called the fire department and our mother. Apparently the firefighters found a lighter out there. Laura had literally been playing with fire. But the truth is, that's the only time I can ever recall her actually getting into any trouble. She looked the part of the angel, as she still does, and for the most part, she totally milked it. Laura might say that I hated her in high school, but I think I was just too self-involved to be bothered to hate her. Although she definitely, I think, benefited from the older sister paving the way a little bit. But then after my second year of university, I moved back home for the summer. And Laura was going into her last year of high school, and that summer we became good friends. We hung out together, we went to Hillside Music Festival together, we partied together. The fact that I was old enough to buy beer probably helped. I even managed to convince both Laura and her friend Christian that they should apply for engineering at U of T. And they both got in and came the next September. When Laura arrived at U of T, we were nearly inseparable. We would see each other in the Engineering Society after being apart for only a few hours or a day, and our reunion would be full of hugs as if we'd been apart for weeks. I remember someone saying to me, "Wow, you and your sister are so close. My sister and I hate each other." And it was true, we had become very close. When Laura's roommate in first year tried to had her kicked out of residence, I was so mad that I had our muscle-clad bodybuilder friend Donald teach me how to really throw a punch. Since I wanted to knock her lights out. Nobody messes with my sister. Do you hear that, Nathan? The next year, Laura and I found a place to live together downtown, renting 2 rooms in a big house. By summer, Kristen had moved into one of the rooms as well. By fall, we had a 3-bedroom apartment for the 3 of us at the corner of Brewer and Dublin in Toronto. That apartment, living with Laura and Kristen, was, quite frankly, the most settled home I'd had in years, and I loved living with Laura. We used to say at that point that if we ever won the lottery, we would both buy big loft condos across the road from each other and build a bridge between them so that we could visit. Do you remember that? And to this day, I still miss living with her. I don't think our mother could have ever anticipated or hoped that we would become as close friends as we did. When Laura took the job on the yacht, I was excited for her, but at the same time, a little devastated. I remember walking home from my teacher job at the time, crying, just thinking about how Laura would be leaving in a few short weeks. I did miss Laura like crazy, but we managed to reunite a few times while she was on the boat. I met Laura in Barcelona, and she and I backpacked around Europe together for 2.5 weeks. We had a great time with lots of good stories, but I think the most memorable one was in Munich when we had managed to arrive just in time for Oktoberfest. She's looking a little ashamed of this one.
Nothing bad happens in Munich.
We took a night train in from Rome and arrived bright and early, just in time to check our bags at the train station, grab some breakfast, and then go to the beer gardens and line up for when they opened in an hour. We met some locals who taught us all the drinking songs, and by noon we were both trashed. It turns out, though, that a liter of beer affects Laura a little more than me.
2 liters.
2 liters. When we finally made it back to the train station, I had to drape Laura on a signpost while I fetched our bags. Steaming. Thankfully, Laura had insisted before leaving for Munich that we book our accommodation. And since all the cheap hostels were full, she had sprung for a room in a very nice hotel. We spent the rest of the day in plush hotel robes, sleeping, ordering a room service, and watching movies on the TV. We'd had enough German culture in one morning to last our entire trip. I think Laura's years on the boat were probably full of stories just like that. She didn't party much during university, but I think she more than made up for it during those 5 years. When Laura decided that her tenure on the boat was over and it was time to move home, I think Mom and I were both a little relieved. We had been worried that she would shack up with some international hottie and live abroad for the rest of her life. She was home in enough time to help me plan my own wedding, be my maid of honor, and sing at my wedding, and make the wedding cake too. I was very happy to have my best friend home. And then, the summer after Ed and I were married, Laura came with us to the Rib and Beer Fest at Victoria Park. And there, that was when all the magic began for Laura and Nathan. Most of you know that Ed and I worked with Nathan. And while we had not actively planned for a setup that day, I freely admit that I had thought of it before. Nathan's a great guy, and there was at least one occasion that I recall telling him he should come to my place for a gathering, and my cute, single younger sister would be there, but alas, he didn't show up on those occasions. At Rib and Beer Fest, though, we ran into a crew of people from work, including Nathan. And when Laura and Nathan were chatting in the beer line, Ed and I exchanged excited glances and did our best to encourage them to get to know each other better. We even invited everyone back to our backyard for an impromptu bonfire that evening, trying to keep things moving in the right direction. At the end of the day, I asked Laura if she was interested and if I should give Nathan her number, and she of course said yes. And on Monday at work, I gave it to him with an excited smirk on my face, I'm sure. But perhaps Nathan likes to play hard to get. Or maybe he's just much more shy than his jolly, easygoing demeanor would suggest. Because he didn't call her. A week or two later, I saw Tay at lunch, and he started scheming, suggesting we should set up a date on Nathan's behalf. I was pretty sure Laura would not go for that. I wondered if Tay was actually on Cindy, Nathan's mom's payroll, and he was working so hard to get her. I'm not 100% sure, but my understanding is that Nathan finally called Laura and asked her out because Tay dialed the phone and stuck it up to his ear while he was driving. I think we can finally say that your risk was well rewarded, Nathan. And as much as I'd like to take the credit for these two getting together, Tay is clearly the one who deserves the credit for this actually making it happen. Of course, despite Laura and I being close, or maybe because of that, she can still be pretty secretive. I suppose she didn't want to put me in an awkward position if things with Nathan didn't work out. So when they went out on the first date, she didn't tell me. On the day of their second date, however, there was a bit of an information leak. Laura made the mistake of telling Jen, who told Kristen, who told me, that Laura was going out on a date with some guy. I think he worked with him.